You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Hello, Steeler Nation. It is The Drive. I'm a little flustered. I don't even know where to begin with the intro and what do I typically say here because, Matt, we obviously have a bunch to get to today. It is the day after a playoff loss, and that is always a massive show.
It is.
But things
It's one of the biggest days in the history of the organization.
You know what? Normally saying stuff like that
Yeah,
is
it's
very
usually
hyperbolic,
crazy. Right,
but
yeah.
I think you are spot on because, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Tomlin has stepped down as the Steelers' head coach. Here is the statement from Art Rooney II to get us started here today as we jump right into this. During our meeting today, Coach Tomlin informed me that he has decided to step down as our head coach. Obviously, I am extremely grateful to Mike for all the hard work, dedication, and success we have shared over the last 19 years. It is hard for me to put into words the level of respect and admiration I have for Coach Tomlin. He guided the franchise to our 6th Super Bowl championship and made the playoffs 13 times during his tenure, including winning the AFC North 8 times in his career. His track record of never having a losing season in 19 years will likely never be duplicated. My family and I and everyone connected to Steelers management are forever grateful for the passion and dedication Mike Tomlin has devoted to Steelers football. End quote. That from Art Rooney II. And wow, Matt, here we are. Like I said, I know words are what you and I do for a living.
Yeah.
But I'm a little speechless in a way here right now. I certainly thought this was a possibility, but not this quick, less than 24 hours after the game even ended.
So selfishly, I've done this a long time as a media guy.
Sure.
And a lot of different outlets, and I've covered a ton of coaching changes, but I've never covered a Steeler one. You know what I mean? Like, and working for Steelers and SNR and all that, like, we've gone through quarterback changes and drafts and all kinds of big seismic shifts, GM changes. I mean, all these types of things, but never done this before, you know,
Crazy.
And it is crazy and it's exciting and I understand it from all sides. But I think the biggest takeaway has to be, boy, he did a lot for good things for this organization. And what a tremendous.
If that's not your first take today, I think you're missing the plot a little bit.
Right. And I know that yesterday's game wasn't good. I mean, we know that.
And we'll talk about that plenty. We'll kind of bob and weave today between reacting to this and obviously reacting to the game that still isn't even 24 hours ago that ended the Steelers' regular season. But you're right.
And as the week goes on, we'll talk about what's next and what this means and who's going to be back and who hasn't. And we don't know those things either, but it's going to be fun to talk about.
I think you and I are both on the same page that this is the right time for something like this to happen.
Yeah.
But that's still, your first reaction isn't, yeah.
Right. It's not like.
Your first reaction is, this is the end of what has been a successful era for the Steelers. And I know the last couple of years have not left the best taste in everybody's mouth. And it kind of, but
you always win.
To bring some light to the situation, I'm kind of the Batman, the Dark Knight quote is going through my head right now. Like, you either die the villain or you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And, I understand the last couple years for a lot of people, Mike Tomlin has become a villain. But if you can't respect 19 years, 193 regular season wins, those division titles, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl trophy, and just a guy who did things the right way. Wasn't always perfect. Nobody is. Right. Didn't make every single right decision and right move and all those things. But he never embarrassed the organization.
No, class act
the whole way.
How many smiles did he put on our listeners' faces over the last 2 decades? You know what I mean?
A whole bunch.
And contributed to a lot of fun Sundays and Monday nights.
19 seasons. 19 seasons. I mean, that's nuts. You have a 19-year-old son, don't you?
Right.
I mean,
that knows no different.
Freshman in college knows no different. As well. That is the news here today. And Matt, I have to think that this is the start of significant change for the Steelers organization. This is, I think, going to be the. There will be more changes to the coaching staff. There will be more changes to the roster. But this is obviously the biggest possible first domino to fall.
Of course. And it's very exciting. And I'm excited to analyze it and think about coaching and quarterback and fits and where the organization goes. But I do think today mostly has to be about, well, what we watched yesterday, and is it the right time, which none of us know the exact answer for. I lean towards yes, and I've kind of thought that for the last couple of weeks, that even the way that the roster is structured, a lot of people look at it like, man, they pushed all their chips in this year to try to win it, and they failed. I'm like, no, they didn't. They didn't push any chips in. They have all their chips. They got 5 picks in the top 99
We wanted
picks
them
next
to
week.
depart with some of those chips at the trade deadline.
Right, yeah. Like, yes, Cam and Watt are old, but really, who's from the generation 10 years ago other than those two and Boz? I mean, like, it's a whole new era with Frazier and Fautanu and Porter and, this draft class and the future draft class and a new staff. So I think the timing works out well from a football perspective and quarterback and all that stuff, I mean, it's to take a different approach, and that's going to be fun to talk about. But this guy's a Hall of Fame head coach.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, easily. I mean, Cowher went, and I'm not spitting anything at Cowher, but Tomlin's a stronger resume than Cowher.
He's got, I think, 30-some more wins. And did it for longer. And, I think certainly when you look at his resume compared to other coaches who are in the Hall of Fame, I think
Harbaugh's in. I think he's in. He's got
just about as good of credentials as anybody. And so, wow. I mean,
massive news.
Million different notes from the game that we will get into.
We have to talk about the game. Yeah.
I think you're right, Matt, of what you said a few minutes ago. I've been kind of thinking about that, but I mean, this is about as big of a day, in terms of the affecting change and affecting the future that we've seen in the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise.
It really is. It's right there with when you win the Super Bowl or, right.
Ownership changes. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, this is now only the Steelers will be looking for their 4th head coach since 1969. And I mean,
which is nuts.
It really is. It really is.
And this stuff, it's hitting me so quick, but like when the Ravens let go of Harbaugh immediately became the most sought-after coaching candidate, and the Ravens' job became like the most sought-after coaching job.
Did the Ravens just get usurped by the Steelers once again?
I mean, this is a highly desirable job.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, and Tomlin, if he decides he wants to keep coaching or whatever he wants to do or go to the booth or retire off in the sunset, is going to be highly desired at whatever he chooses to do next in life, Pretty cool. Pretty crazy. It's a lot to react to.
It's a lot to react to. It's a lot to kind of just try and find the talking points.
Yeah.
At this point. But Super Bowl champion, 193 regular season wins, 19 years in Pittsburgh. Of course, the non-losing seasons streak.
Mm-hmm. Which I know became a footnote and kind of a punchline to people at times, but that's miraculous.
It is.
You didn't have 1 year that you lost your starting quarterback in T.J. Watt, and you can only muster up 6 or 7 wins ever.
Or just you lose a couple of one-score games that you probably should have won, and you end
bad
up
kicker
going
7
and 10,
right?
No, and again, I think you're right. It is funny how, for a period of time, that was something that really people used to laud Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
and then it almost got weaponized against him as like, hey, they're not a Super Bowl contender, but at least they're not having a losing season.
Right.
I think
did you guys hear about his streak?
Those things things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Agreed.
It can be a disappointment that now you've gone 8 or 9 years and lost 6 straight playoff games and all this stuff that we'll get into. The disappointment of last night.
Yeah, I mean these playoff games haven't gone well at all.
No,
we know that.
While still, giving somebody credit for never losing a locker room, always playing important football. When the holidays hit, the Steelers are still playing important football.
Yeah.
And they're not always saying that in Cincinnati and Cleveland and many, many other places. And so, yes, this is seismic. And I think we're both on the same page that this is the right timing for this too. But I want the lead off. I want the headline to be, it was 19 years of mostly good and mostly success.
Yeah.
And thanks to Mike Tomlin for all that he did for this organization. And as you and I mentioned, never, this stuff is important to me. I know to some people it's not. Like, you just look at wins and losses and success on a piece of paper, and who cares about anything else. But this guy never cast the organization in a negative light. No. He never had any legal issues, never had any, drinking and driving issues or things like that.
Yeah. And frankly, you've been around him. I've been around him. He's not my friend. I mean, I think he knows who probably both of us are. Maybe. I don't know. But
he recognizes us when he sees us in the hallway at the facility.
Right. Yeah. But it's like, he's very impressive to be around.
Yes.
Right. It's like, wow. I mean, I understand why he's so successful and bright and all those things. And I keep going back to Hall of Fame. Like, this is so fresh and new, but the day that he retires and the day he gets inducted, they're going to put a jacket on him 2 hours up the road, and every head coach in attendance that's wearing a jacket is going to stand up when they mention that streak and go, wow. And they're going to put a microphone in Parcells' face or Belichick's face and be like, what do you think that streak? Like, you don't understand how hard that is to do. I mean, it's ridiculously hard to do. It's hard to do for 10 years.
Especially in this sport, man.
Yeah.
And that's we'll get plenty more. Yeah. We'll get plenty more into all this stuff and where do you go from here and what does it mean and candidates and all that.
I'm looking forward to breaking that down. That's going to be a blast, right?
Absolutely. But I think you're like this now becomes the most sought after job in the National Football League because of 19 years of Mike Tomlin. What was it? 16 of Bill Cowher, I think it was.
You're probably not going to be one and done here.
That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in this business, man. Like that does not happen in high-level college football. That does not happen in the National Football League.
You're taking over a division-winning team.
You're taking over a division-winning team, and I know some people could, you could scream, and hey, Baltimore's got the better quarterback situation.
They do.
I wouldn't fight you on that one.
They do.
But I think when people who live that coaching life and that coaching carousel, and they know the grind that it is and how often you have to pack up and move your family and things like that, they'll look at Pittsburgh and they'll go, man, if I get that job, I'm going to be there for at least 12 years. So
I could be home for a while as long as I do a nice job here.
There's going to be 3 or 4 more presidential cycles before I could be looking for another gig. But thanks to Mike Tomlin for all his service, for all his dedication. This is going to take some time to really sink in and get used to.
Yeah, and really get my vantage point on and all that stuff too. And the last thing I want to throw in there too is not everyone, I think, understands how respected he is amongst his peers. I mean, he's been on the competition committee forever. That's just, they don't just say who wants to do this job. Nobody wants to be on the competition committee. That's like an honor. I mean, he is greatly, greatly respected amongst, all the head coaches, those that came before them, particularly, just to be frank, the African-American coaching community. I mean, he is extremely important, so these things aren't minor.
No, they are not. And there's a whole bunch more to get to. There's a whole bunch more to dissect. So here's what I think we do, Matt. Okay? Does this work for everybody as a layout? Let's spend a little time here in this hour, unfortunately, talking about Houston 30, Pittsburgh 6.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it.
I mean, we have to.
Right.
And then we'll kind of do the figure 8 thing. We'll circle back to this after we talk about the game a little bit. Let's talk to Rob King in hour number 2, voice of the Steelers, get his thoughts on all this, as we'll bob and weave between last night reaction and then obviously the major breaking news here that Mike Tomlin is stepping down after 19 years as the bench boss, the face of the sideline, the face of the organization of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So much to get to today, rolling forward in this entire week. We're just getting started. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio. This is how I go to break, right? Like, I'm like, Ricky Bobby? You've seen Talladega Nights?
Yeah.
Where he's like getting interviewed on TV for the first time, and he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like the first time I've hosted a radio show. Like, I haven't been doing this for the last 18 years of my life.
Right,
like,
you guys come strolling in, have a coffee.
Like, I don't know. Wait, what do I do? Is this how I go to break? Is this how I actually do this? Yes, this is how we do this. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, a big one just getting started here on The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
Going to do it. The Steelers will not snap the ball again. The team's walking to greet each other at the center of the field, and that is the end of the game. The final score, the Texans 30, the Steelers 6.
as the Steelers fall 30-6 at home to the Houston Texans last night in the final of the wild card weekend playoff action. And Matt, I'm still surprised. I mean, it's been not quite 24 hours. We've had a little time to digest, but just the way that played out, the way that things went off the rails. Listen, you and I both picked the Texans to win on our last show. Mm-hmm. So that part, not shocking, but the way that it played out was quite shocking.
Yeah, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl when the playoffs opened, too. I mean, I have great respect for the organization. And it's funny, Tom and I do the pregame show, and he had all – I'm not giving him a hard time, but he'd have all these ideas about, well, Steelers offense can attack the defense this way. And I'd be like, yeah, but they're best in the league against that. Or, like you and I talked about it all throughout the week. Like, they're a great defense. We know that. But not only are they a great defense, and the Browns were this way too, and I think I undersold how bad a matchup they were for what the Steelers do on offense from a Steelers perspective. Now, let's start with them. Bad offense has something to do with this. Don't get me wrong. And I'm going to be critical of some of the tactics the Steelers took. And frankly, some of their players just aren't good enough to beat a defense like this time and time again on that kind of game. But that's as good a defensive performance as you'll ever see in the modern-day NFL playoffs. I mean, like, EPA and some of these advanced stats, like, it was the best EPA defensive performance in the playoffs in, like, the last 20 years.
I believe
like, you don't have 76 Steelers or 85 Bears anymore where no one gets a yard. But in how today's football is played, that's as good as it gets, what they did. Let's just at least give them their flowers.
And part of that does reflect on them, but certainly part of that is because the Steelers' own shortcomings and ineptitudes as well.
No question.
And that's really, it'll be tough to remember in the days that follow and the years that follow, but that was a 1-point game heading into the fourth quarter. Houston 7, Pittsburgh 6, heading into the fourth quarter, not the second half, the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And
it felt like in that first half, other than Houston running the football successfully, which we'll talk about
a lot.
We're going to, kind of paint in broad strokes to open
That's
here.
That's the thing I didn't see coming.
That's and that I think is probably the big on the list of the baker's dozen things that you would write down that were the reasons you lost the game. That might be number one.
And it's the one I did. I mean, that's the least expected of them all.
We spent
they scored on defense, or they had a bunch of sacks, or whatever. Like, I can understand that. Right.
Everyone that previewed this game spent time talking about how you better when the Steelers are on defense and the Texans are on offense, you better win that run game battle, that rush game battle decisively.
And you should.
You should.
Right. There's a lot of indicators you are better at that.
Because how you've limited much more successful rushing attacks from Miami and Detroit and and on down the line, Indianapolis and Green Bay earlier in the season, Chicago earlier in the season.
Yeah.
That aside, Matt, I thought the first half and maybe even a little bit into the third quarter, you couldn't have asked it to play out better for the Steelers. You're +3 in the turnover department.
Yeah.
Every fumble that fell on the ground, you jumped on, including the first one by Aaron Rodgers that Mason McCormick hopped on. You were +3 in the turnover department. You were, I think, +3 in the sack, or maybe +2 in the sack department.
I think you were at that point. Yeah.
At that point. Everything possible had gone your way. You had gotten the turnovers to set up your offense. You hadn't turned over the ball. Again, other than the run game, which is a huge part of this equation, and it's 7-6.
Yeah.
Like, that Houston, if you would have told them you're going to be -3 in the turnover margin at some point, they would have been like, we're going to lose this game.
We're in huge trouble, right?
Instead, they were still up a point. And again, there's a laundry list of things that we'll get into. But to me, it was like at one point you looked up and it was still 7-6, but Houston was clearly in control of the game.
They were the better team at that point. Everyone on the planet knew that.
And you were like, man, like it should be 14-7 Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
It should be 13-7 Steelers. It should be 17-7 Steelers, and it's not. And
points off turnovers. I mean, get something. Right.
You had at one point you had 3 turnovers that resulted in 3 points for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Their first turnover, they they scoop 6 it back to the house. And so just like that, 3 turnovers and 3 points for you, 1 and 7 for them. That was kind of like, okay, this was where you needed it to. The Colts game, the Patriots game, close games that you won that were decided because you decisively won the turnover battle. You had the opportunity to do that last night, and you let it slide.
Yeah, but part of that to me was why I was so impressed with the Texans' D. Like,
Sure, absolutely.
Bad
situation,
right.
short field, no problem.
They took it personally and got nasty.
8 plays, 4 yards on
right.
that
Petry's
one
dumping
drive
people on
after
his
the
head,
turnover.
and okay, you're going to put us in a terrible situation after our offense screws up. Great. I mean, it was like it was a personal challenge. Like you offended their mother. You know, what I mean, like, and they ran to the football and hit like crazy. And so that to me, that even elevated the defensive performance for me because you put them in a bad situation a lot, and it didn't matter. Again, bad offense contributes to this too. Don't get me wrong. Now, again, I mean, to your point, turnover battle, that kind of stuff. One of the few things the Steelers did well, they were actually the better team on special teams. I mean,
that's funny. I have, and another thing that was going the Steelers' way until it wasn't. Houston, and I think you mentioned this in our last show or at some point throughout last week. Best average starting field position as an offense in the NFL this season.
Yeah, because they're good on special teams and turnovers.
And that's a big part of they'll run the ball, they'll punt the ball, they don't panic, they'll be patient, they'll play the field position game. That's a big part of why they had won 9 straight games going into last night. 6 of their first 9 possessions, the Texans started at or inside their own 20-yard line.
Yeah. I mean, the punting was good. The coverage teams were good. I mean, we said this a bunch last week. Like, almost every game we preview, special teams and turnovers favor the Steelers going in. I mean, it's been their bread and butter for years, and they're really good at it. And they have a good special teams coach and a good kicker and blah, blah, blah. And in this game, it didn't. But in this game, the way it played out, it did. And they still got their doors blown off in the second half. You know what I mean? Where was I going with this? Oh, by the way, like you mentioned, special teams and turnovers went your way for the majority of the game. And their quarterback might have been a double agent.
Did not play well.
I think he's getting paid by both teams. I mean, some of the dumb things he did. I love Stroud, but that was a hideous performance. And by far, their scariest offensive weapon was either banged up a little, blanketed by Porter, who was a massive bright spot in this game, or concussed and out of the game. You know, like
he was carted off early in the fourth quarter.
Right. And it was really a non-factor before that, as awesome as Nico Collins is. You know, like they had their 2 best most important and best offensive players were kind of useless in this game.
They turned the ball over right at the goal line and took points directly off the board. Houston did with that Eccles interception. Man, how many snap issues did they have?
Yeah, I would say their center was a disaster too.
Yeah.
Disaster.
And they'd always find a way.
He was a double agent too.
They'd always find a way to like that. I'm trying to remember when it was. I think it was late in the third quarter when
one snap.
It was still late in the third quarter. This is the drive that Fairbairn hit the field goal to put them up 10-6.
Okay.
They had on second down a terrible in the shadow of the end zone. Second down snap issue. They end up in like a 3rd and 12 or a 3rd and 13. And they go 49 yards to Christian Kirk on the next play.
Yeah.
You know?
Now,
like, it just so many times where it felt like this is playing right into your hands. And
right where you want them.
In
some ways, right.
In some ways, and you'd let them off the hook. Time after time, when you had an opportunity to really assert yourself in that game, you couldn't do it. You couldn't get the upper hand.
The scoreboard didn't reflect it at this point of the game, but there was 2 key moments where I felt, I think the Steelers are now in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
The Metcalf drop, which was brutal. And I did a show with Rob earlier. He thought he could have scored.
Maybe.
If at a minimum he probably gets inside the 5. I mean, you definitely get 3 points out of it or whatever. But, I mean, it was a crucial drop. And the second quarter drive where Houston just ran the ball every time.
Yep. 92 yards or whatever it was, 14 plays, 92 yards, over 7 minutes.
Yeah. Those 2 points in the first half, I was like, these are not good signs. Yeah, these are critical problem areas. And to your point, it reminded me a little the first Bengals game this year. We come in here and they lost, and it's like, Chase went for 8,000 yards.
Higgins went for 6,000 yards.
Yeah, and it's like, that was terrible. But the sin was letting Chase Brown rip you up.
For
because
a $1.20 or whatever.
They had never run on anybody.
Yeah.
The run defense, to me, is where the Steeler D has to be really to blame. They were really bad at defending Kirk, which unfortunately really fell on Eccles. And their run defense was brutal. But the way the Texans ran the ball is exactly what the Steelers should have done. So, folks, Houston is not put a bunch of huge people on the field offense. They played with 2 tight ends a lot, and they brought Fisher, their extra tackle, in and just ran downhill double-team runs. They were not slow developing.
Looked like Bettis behind Faneca.
Yeah. I mean, it was just double-team Benton, blow him off the ball, and run right at him, which is Benton's biggest weakness. And they were a very physical downhill running game with not so great a back. Like this show I did with Pursuta, he's like, that wasn't Jahmyr Gibbs. That wasn't Henry. Right. I mean, he just got what was there, and he's fine. They're still going to draft a back on day 2 this year. I mean, next year or whatever. And Steelers couldn't deal with that, and they couldn't deal with Kirk. But overall, other than that, I know they're big things. The defense did a lot of good stuff.
They got worn down.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminded me a little bit of that Chargers game in a sense of the defense played well for a large portion of it.
And they made plays.
Offense wasn't able to capitalize on some short field situations and some opportune moments.
Yeah.
And eventually the dam just broke, and you weren't able to lean on that defense anymore.
But the offense had nothing all day.
Nothing.
They were totally outclassed, outmatched against a great defense, but that's playoff football.
So you and I both kind of do this the same. We take notes throughout the game, and it's like stream of conscious, just trying not to forget anything and remember every little
type
detail.
Something almost after every play,
I've got a ton of things at the end, a ton of sins that I've listed here, talking about DK and Muth and run game and failing to capitalize on turnovers and Houston's poor field position, all that stuff.
Yeah, I love the field position point.
But at the very last thing that I wrote was, I think this is the story of the game. The Steelers too often were in 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, while Houston so often was in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6.
Yeah, baby. Now you're talking my language.
I think is this of the 12 different things that could be the story of the game. I think
that's the summary. I always talk about this. I don't think we've gone down this road, but a lot of times, like, you do the arithmetic problem and you add this and you carry the 1 and blah 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 blah, and eventually you just draw the line under, and the final answer is this. The final answer is this to me: is the average Texans 3rd down was 3rd and 5.5, which is very short, and people think that's normal. That's pretty short. I mean, usually it's like 3rd and 7, because inevitably you get a 3rd and 20 that screws up your numbers. There's
a holding penalty or something like that.
There's going to be some 3rd and longs.
Sure.
I mean, rare, but 3rd and 5.5 is a very manageable situation for every time you snap the ball on 3rd down. Steelers, 3rd and 11.1.
Good Lord.
The average time that they snapped the ball on 3rd down, it was 11.1 yards to go against the best pass rush you've ever seen.
And that's why they were 0-8 or 1-8 on 3rd downs at some point.
They snapped the ball 9 times when it was 3rd and 10 or longer.
Jeez.
Against that defense.
Right. It's one thing if you're doing that against a league average defense.
League average, the Ravens that can't rush the passer.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You'll get away with it. But against Anderson and sometimes an empty, too, you're not even helping those dudes. You're not going to win that way against those guys. But to me, that's the arithmetic problem. You draw the line.
That's
3rd down to go. It sums up the whole game.
Every time you looked up for Houston, it was 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you looked up for the Steelers, it was 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 9.
Yep.
And
every time.
That's a tough way to live in the National Football League, period.
Yes.
But especially against what is the best defense in the National Football League.
Yeah, brutal.
Just
and you don't
brutal.
have the man beaters to do it. You know what I mean? If you're loaded at wide receiver or whatever, too, and Rodgers doesn't want to hold the ball for things to develop 15 yards downfield time and time again, and you can't block it up, and brutal.
Well, that's
other than that, it was great.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln,
yeah.
How was the play? Let's take our first break here. Let's talk to Rob King on the other side. We've got a million more things to get into. We've got to talk about the Steelers' offensive usage and play calling and game plan. We've got to talk a little bit more about Woody Marks and Nick Chubb looking like, I don't know, Walter Payton and Refrigerator Perry back there. We've got a ton to dig into as we roll along here today and continue to dissect Texans 30, Steelers 6 here on The Drive. We'll talk to Rob King when we return on the other side. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
Rodgers steps up, and Rodgers is sacked. And the ball is loose, and it's picked up by Sheldon Rankins, and Rankins is sprinting down the field, and Rankins has scored a Houston Texans touchdown.
I mean, this is still fresh, man. It's extremely frustrating, extremely frustrating.
I concur, TJ. And, man, that moment there, I think, Matt, of course, the Rankins scoop 6 that really felt like was kind of the beginning of the end.
That was kind of a grown man play.
Yeah.
On the big kid on the schoolyard just like pushes the blocker over, pushes the quarterback out of the way, grabs the ball, and just rumbles down the field. Like, whoa. Yeah.
And, man, that defense deserves a lot of credit. They do. But it's at the same time, from where we stand and where we, our allegiances lie.
Yeah.
It's tough not to
Can't allow those things to happen.
It's tough not to be a little bit upset with the offensive game plan and the way that everything played out. And 5 carries for Jaylen Warren in the first half. I mean, he finishes with 12, but a few of those were at the end and kind of garbage time. DK Metcalf makes 2 big plays on the first 2 drives and then has the drop and then doesn't see another target for like 30 minutes of play into the fourth quarter.
I hope that's not a doghouse situation in a game like that. I mean, come on.
And Pat Freiermuth gets 1 target, really, that wasn't in garbage time, game is out of hand.
Like, I know Gainwell's your MVP, and it's not like he had a million touches, but those are the guys that touch the ball.
Yes.
Freiermuth, Metcalf, Warren have to be the guys that touch the ball.
And DK Metcalf.
That's a Metcalf, Metcalf, Freiermuth, and Warren. I mean, Gainwell's still a peripheral piece to me.
Yes.
I mean, those 3 need to be foundation of your offense. It seems like every Monday, and in this case Tuesday, win or lose, we have the same consistent criticism. Why didn't they stick with the run more?
And why aren't they targeting their best playmakers in the pass game?
Yeah, exactly. There may be 2 different issues. I don't know.
Like, how does Kenneth Gainwell have more targets in the pass game than DK Metcalf?
Right.
How does Calvin Austin have more targets than DK Metcalf? How does MVS have the same amount of targets?
And if it was a one-off, it happened once, but you had 12 games where it was a lot different, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's just a one-off.
How do you
Stingley maybe took him away or whatever.
How do you have 5 guys that are targeted more than Pat Freiermuth in the pass game?
Yeah.
He's your 6th most targeted guy in the pass game.
That's a great sentence right there. Question, or like, what are we doing here?
And sometimes, Matt,
The game was 7-6 for forever. Run the ball.
And Houston did, and it paid off. I mean,
right.
The numbers look crazy. Woody Marks, 19 carries, 112 yards, 5.9 average. Nick Chubb, 10 for 48, 4.8 yard average for, like, not 2020 Nick Chubb, 2026 Nick Chubb.
Yeah. And it wasn't like him making a lot of yards on their own. Like, the yards before contact numbers were really in the Texas
I don't
favor.
remember what the first half numbers were, but I don't recall at halftime when I was doing the halftime show and we have the stats segment. I don't recall at that point looking at Houston's rushing numbers and going, "Oh man, that's not good." Like, they were having some success there.
I think Marks was around 70 yards or so.
Was he at 7? Was he about there?
Because they had that one big drive.
They did.
They ran the ball
and he
and
had that 20. He had that 20-yard run.
But it was kind of foreshadowing a little bit. That's what started worrying me.
It was kind of like it was the same spot that we were at in that Bills game, right? It was that same spot a couple times this year where you were either in the lead or trailing slightly like you are here. Wasn't it that same? Wasn't it 7-6 at the Bills halftime, or was it 7-3? Regardless,
it was the same neighborhood. It was single digits.
But it felt like, man, this one's close to the tide. Feels like it's very close to going in the opposite direction, the wrong direction.
Oh yeah, I felt that way too. But I'm like, maybe they come out with new vigor in the second half, and they kind of lucked out here, and they're turning the quarterback over, who's not playing well. Like, I hadn't lost hope.
No.
coming out of the half.
No,
I'm
absolutely
like,
not.
You're losing by 1.
Absolutely.
You know?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And to start the half, you get that Eccles big turnover near the goal line.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, man, they not much has gone their way, but it's a 1-point game here, and you just forced another massive turnover. And all right, come on, here's the momentum that you need. And then the offense still stutters. Jonnu Smith has a false start that kills you on that ensuing possession.
That was a bad one, yeah.
You know, then the defense once again forces Houston to go 3 and out. So you get the turnover at the goal line to start the second half. Then Houston's second possession, they go 3 and out. But you have that Rodgers fumble that McCormick, jumps on, and you end up having to punt it away. Okay, Houston's backed up after a bad snap. Whoop! 49-yard gain to Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
Just when you felt
like
we're
going
to make them punt from their own end zone, and we're going to get the ball back in good field position here. Killer. It's like every time there was an opportunity to grab that game back by the throat, you let Houston stay with the upper hand.
Yeah, and to me, an ironic or frustrating, depending how you want to look at it, situation is how both teams decided to run the ball. First of all, one team, Houston, and they have been all year, despite being the inferior run team, has been very dedicated to running the ball, even though they know they're bad at it. We previewed that going into this game. Steelers, on the other hand, are much better at it, but never stay dedicated to it. Okay, we knew those things coming in, and they held true in this game.
Yeah.
But where I'm going with it is tactically. So what did Houston do? They put the extra offensive lineman on the field and played with 2 tight ends and an extra lineman a very high percentage of the time. That's why I pulled my laptop up. I just wanted to double check where Blake Fisher is their extra offensive lineman. He played 22 snaps.
22.
I mean, that's a big number for an extra offensive lineman. And we know that's the Steelers' way of doing things. Well, what did the Steelers do in terms of trying to get physical and bring an extra offensive lineman on the field? Spencer Anderson plays 6 snaps.
6.
In a 7-6 game. When I couldn't harp on this enough last week, this is a team that wants to live in nickel. So get big and at least make them play base. At least not let them have their favorite 11 guys on the field.
And I don't understand. One of those, again, if we're writing all the sins out on the grease board, it's not number 1 or number 2, but it's certainly on
high
there.
on the list, yeah.
Why are you running so much stuff to the edge?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the fastest defense in the NFL.
That's what I was going to say, too.
Run right through the teeth.
Right up the gut, and their linebackers are great, but they're not take-on guys. They're run and hit sideline-to-sideline dudes, and their D tackles aren't super great. I mean, they're fine, but if you're going to – I thought the Steelers had an interior O-line versus interior D-line advantage.
Yes.
They didn't – and
I think we all did.
Frazier and McCormick both played quite well, but nobody would have noticed,
Might have been the only ones on the offense who
it's hard to find players who played well. Porter's the one
those
that jumped
two
off the page,
and Joey Porter I thought certainly played pretty well. But
they did what you did. You know what I mean? Like just comparing the run games to me there was an interesting and frustrating and kind of ironic.
Yep. And I understand it's for the vast majority of that game, it's a 1-point game. It's a 1-possession game. It's like, all right, we're not going to abort our game plan here. Stick with it. It's going to work at some point.
Yeah.
But the way they kept running outside of the tackles and screen stuff outside of the tackles.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be like you're playing against Shaq and Kevin Garnett, and you keep trying to attack the rim instead of knocking down some jump shots.
Just back them down.
You know what I mean? Or no, just shoot some threes.
Right.
Don't go into the paint with the big trees.
It'd be like if I just tried to keep backing down Shaq. Post me up, baby. I got him.
I got Steph Curry, and I'm asking him to attack the basket. Like, no, dude, just post up and knock down some jump shots.
Get him coming out of the paint, right?
Or the other way around. Like,
you played to their strengths too much.
Yes,
no doubt.
Yes, and so that just. It'd be one thing, and you and I both, we talked about this as a possibility. You and Tom talked about this as a possibility on the pregame show. Tom and I, we did a Steelers Audio Network pep rally show Saturday night at Tequila Cowboy.
I heard that was awesome, by the way.
It was a lot of fun.
By the way, yeah.
They really took care of us there, and Steeler Nation was out and loud, as you can imagine. It was a lot of fun. Big thanks to everybody on the Steelers and Tequila Cowboy for setting that all up. But man, I think we all could have seen a scenario where it was a Detroit Lions type game. It was a Baltimore Ravens type game, but you come out on the losing end of a really close, tight one. I don't think many of us saw Mason Rudolph entering the game after the 2-minute warning.
No. I mean, the end was embarrassing, a disaster, bullying, I mean, and that started before the score reflected it.
Yes, it did.
But then all of a sudden you're looking at it's like the score, it's over. I mean, like we can't even get first downs. We can't do anything offensively. And now they're scoring when we have the ball. I mean, like, forget about it. The end was hard to watch.
It was hard to watch. And the build-up and frustration and missed opportunities too.
Yeah, there was a lot of it.
Like
you said, they're taking the ball away and Stroud's playing poor. And, like, that's all you could ask for with those things. Nico's not a factor,
One of those moments too that stood out to me that I wrote down here was second quarter. They have that 90+ yard drive that we talked about to take the 7-3 lead with the Christian Kirk touchdown catch. You have a bad 3-and-out to give it right back to Houston after that. Okay, and that was the one where you had the screen set up for Jonnu, but he ran right into the teeth of the defense instead of going outside. And that's one of the more for whatever reason, it felt like you got to get Jonnu Smith touches, but not that same type of urgency with DK Metcalf and Pat Freiermuth.
You're manufacturing stuff for Jonnu Smith, which I prefer he's not even on the field.
So you have that bad read by Jonnu Smith. Then you get an intentional grounding penalty, 3-and-out. You give it right back to Houston. I wrote in my notes, it feels like the momentum has completely swung since that DK Metcalf drop at this point. Houston back in the lead, getting the ball back, but C.J. Stroud has another bad turnover. You go for it on 4th and 2. You get it with the completion to Adam Thielen. Then,
that's great.
Then Rodgers takes a sack, then you go backwards, then you have to kick anyways. So it's like you convert the 4th and 2, you do the hard part.
You do the hard part,
You
right.
force the turnover, you convert the 4th and 2, you do the hard part, but then Rodgers takes a bad sack, you go sideways a couple plays, you still have to kick it anyways. And this huge opportunity to put that DK momentum behind you, to put that Houston just has their most impressive drive of the night. One of the more impressive drives of any team in the playoffs this past weekend.
Yep.
You could have scored. You could have answered with a turnover and a touchdown minutes later and put that behind you. Put the DK drop behind you. Put all that stuff, the bad 3-and-out behind you. And instead,
that's not even that extreme of an ask.
You kick anyways, and okay, it's 7-6 all of a sudden in the second quarter. But it's like, man, we should have a 10-7 lead, and you're getting Houston the ball back at halftime. Like it felt like every opportunity that they had a chance. Let's figure this all out as we rock and roll here, and we'll continue to discuss Steelers Texans on this Tuesday as the Steelers season is in the books. We'll do all that and more as we roll along. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Good evening, Steeler Nation. How we doing? A little chaotic, a little head spinning. Yeah, us too. Hour number 2 here of The Drive on, I think, one of the craziest days Matt, the only day that I've done radio that reminds me of this is the day that it was announced in 2019 that Ben Roethlisberger was going to have season-ending elbow surgery 3 weeks into the year. And Moats and I were 60 seconds from going on air.
Oh, wow.
And Brian's producing for us, and he's like, guys, they just ruled Ben out for the year. 60 seconds before we went on air, and we have to, react to that and everything that comes with it. As we now know, if you've missed it, if you're just joining us, that Mike Tomlin stepping down after 19 seasons at the helm as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Joining us now to discuss, obviously this and a little bit from last night, is the man who just finished his second year as the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is the great Rob King, of course, the co-host of In the Locker Room with Max Starks, too. Kinger, wow, just your initial reaction, your thoughts here in the moments after we find out that the Steelers, for the first time in 19 years, will be conducting a head coaching search, and Mike Tomlin will be departing.
Yeah, it is a wow, and I don't even know where to begin. I don't know whether to happen this soon after the season ends. You wonder if he'd been considering it for a while, or if there are other factors. Success of the team, non-success of the team. What? That's all stuff that he will address, I'm sure, at some point. In the meantime, people thinking there were going to be changes. What's the team going to do? This was not the change I expected, and I certainly did not expect it now.
Yeah, and what Wes and I have been really focusing on, because it's so new, isn't, hey, who's the next head coach? What are they going to do at quarterback? Who else is going to be back from the staff, or none, or anyone? but more, excuse me, Coach Tomlin's legacy. I mean, I know a lot of our listeners were upset with the last couple of years, and the standards are unbelievably high here. But, man, he's going to Hall of Fame. I mean, what he did as the Steelers head coach was pretty remarkable.
There's no question, and I think you're right on all that stuff. I think he's going to Canton. Yeah. And I think he's done a remarkable job. I've said this many times on the air. If you don't want to celebrate the 22, I think it is now, consecutive non-losing seasons, okay. But you can't just dismiss it either.
No.
It is an accomplishment to continue to be good and to continue to be competitive. And, I would challenge people to look at, other great coaches and ask, how many Super Bowls did they win when they didn't have a franchise quarterback? Look at the Steelers' history. Mm-hmm. How many Super Bowls did Chuck Noll win without Terry Bradshaw?
Yep.
Right? I mean, he's gone a long time in his career without a franchise quarterback. And, Ben, post-prime, especially after the injury, obviously a tremendous quarterback. Got to a Super Bowl and won it, got to another Super Bowl and didn't win it. But I didn't see Bill Belichick winning other Super Bowls and Tom Brady was gone. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing other guys who won Coach of the Year awards who are out of work, and I'm not trying to denigrate them. I'm not trying to say they didn't deserve those Coach of the Year awards. I'm just saying when they didn't get quarterbacks, they couldn't win.
And the flip side of it along those lines, Rob, you're saying that, how about all the great coaches that did have great quarterbacks and didn't win it? Like Shula and Marino, Lamar and Harbaugh.
Yep.
What's going on in Buffalo right now, when you do get one and you don't
Zach
win.
Taylor and Joe Burrow.
Right.
Yep. It's no guarantee of success. You have to have all the ingredients in order to win. And it begins with a great coach and a great quarterback. And I think that, we've talked about this before, like how much a quarterback affects a team. The greater the quarterback is, probably the lesser the team you have to have around him. Well, it's conversely true when you don't have good quarterback play, right? How are you going to win without that good quarterback, without that top quarterback? And say what you want about Mike Tomlin, good or bad, or what state Ben was in or wasn't in. I mean, this guy in the post-Ben era got the team to the playoffs 3 consecutive years with 3 different quarterbacks. That hasn't been done in a quarter century since Tampa Bay did it 25 years ago.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Again, is that winning the ultimate prize? No. The Steelers pride themselves on being an organization whose goal is to win the Super Bowl. In some cities, you get to the playoffs, they're ready to throw a parade for you. In Pittsburgh, you get to the playoffs and they say, now what? It's a higher standard, it's a higher expectation, but just because it's there doesn't mean it's easy to do. And Mike Tomlin, I think, accomplished a great deal as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think he did. I know he accomplished a great deal as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Rob King with us here on The Drive. Kinger, where my mind goes with all this is, the last handful of years, the Steelers have made a ton of significant changes except for the head coach, right? You've had GM changes, you've had coordinator changes, multiple quarterback changes, a lot of new pieces on that defense, a lot of new pieces on that offense. Now that it is the head coach that is changing, does this feel like the start of more significant change for the organization in terms of the coaching staff, in terms of, hey, I'm sure ultimately this will be a conversation that they have when they're talking to their coaching candidates that they'll interview here in the coming days and weeks, but moving on from Aaron Rodgers and moving on from this, trying to find a stopgap at quarterback that we've seen the last few years, does this feel like the biggest domino, obviously, to fall in what will be a start of a significant offseason of change for this organization?
It's hard for me to imagine that you would hire a head coach who doesn't have a good deal of autonomy over his staff. And whether that is, and I don't know, I couldn't tell you how many coaches keep current staff in place. I know Mike Tomlin did with Dick LeBeau as defensive coordinator.
It's rare,
but
though.
I don't know. I can't
rare.
remember that far back about the rest of the staff. This just happened, and it's been 19 years, And so if a new coach comes into, whoever goes and becomes a new coach of the Raiders, frankly, I'm not standing over them watching if they kept the assistant O-line coach or the inside linebacker coach or, I don't know. But I would imagine that the coach would have a lot of autonomy about who to hire, and it's going to represent a new beginning, and it's only their third new beginning in 56 years or whatever it is, an astonishing amount of time. So I do think that, when you hire a head coach, he's going to want to bring in people that he wants to hopefully succeed or fail with. So I do believe that this is the first of what will be a lot of changes because of that, because I think you have to give the head coach some degree of autonomy about who he's going to surround himself with.
I would think you're right. I would think it's going to be wholesale changes, but I don't know. I mean, that's just how the league usually goes. Good time to pivot to yesterday, Wes. What do you think? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of frustrating things about that game, but maybe frustration-wise, the running game to me for both sides has me a little disturbed. That they couldn't put Calvin Anderson or Spencer Anderson out there and play big ball against a team that wants to live in nickel and run the ball over and over. And on the other side, they couldn't stop that same approach, where the Texans put big people on the field and just ran right at them. And both running games kind of failed the Steelers a little bit, quite a bit yesterday.
I think you hit the nail right in the head. I think that's exactly what happened. The Steelers, last year they were a running team. They ran the ball the fourth most in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
This year they were not a running team. They were 28th in the league in the NFL as far as attempts. Last year we saw the team not be able to stop the run. As the season wore on, they were able to stop the run better. They also started to run the football better. You pointed out that stat, Matt, so often that the Steelers are on pace to have their defense play 3 more games than their offense because they weren't running more plays than the other team. That's a bad thing. Down the stretch, the last 4 games of the season were the first 4 games of the season where they ran more plays than the other team. They were trending in the right direction there. They were trending in the right direction of, coming out of the third quarter and doing something with their opening drive. Remember, they lost 4 games to playoff teams when they had a lead at halftime and got the ball to begin the second half and couldn't capitalize. Yeah. There were so many things that were pointing in the right direction, I thought, for the Steelers. And I don't even think they were. They were pointing in the right direction. At the head of that, to me, was stopping the run and running the ball. We just have to remember back to last year. You lost 4 in a row. You weren't running the football effectively. You weren't stopping the run. And so you went out in the offseason and tried to change how you stop the run, and hopefully you were going to be able to run the football better. And they were down the stretch. And then they just didn't last night. I didn't, maybe look, I would have loved to have seen them stick with the run longer. I would have liked to have seen them run the ball at the Texans more than running wide. I think when you run wide against a fast team, that's trouble. I think that's some of the things the Steelers have done well. Wide running plays, throws out to the flat. Those were hard things to operate against the Texans. So I think that you pinpointed it, and I think the Texans had a lot of success running the ball, more than I thought they would. And even when they only had moderate success, it put them in 3rd and 3. And the Steelers were not running the ball. They were not running the ball a lot, and they were not running the ball all that well. And they found themselves in 3rd and long. And look, both these defenses are geared up to hit you when it's 3rd and long and make you make mistakes. And so when that happened, when you couldn't stop the run as well as you wanted, and when you didn't run the ball as much as I think they should have or as well as you wanted, it set up a situation that was just destined to fail. It just was.
Yeah, that was kind of something we discussed in the first hour. Felt like of all the different storylines and things to discuss and shortcomings, the biggest sin was just how often the Texans were winning on 1st and 2nd down to set up 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, versus how often the Steelers were not winning on 1st and 2nd down and getting stuck in 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, those down and distance situations. And, Kinger, it just feels like another opportunity where they didn't get the ball to their best players on offense enough. Not enough DK Metcalf, not enough Warren, not enough Pat Freiermuth. And then I think when you combine that, Rob, we all knew this Houston Texans offense. They don't turn the ball over and they don't take sacks. I mean, that's like at the top.
Right.
That's like at the top of the list. And at one point, you were +3 in the takeaway department. You were +3 in the sack department. Yet you only had 3 points off of that turnover. And all it took was one play for Houston to get a turnover and directly scoop that thing into the end zone and turn it into a touchdown. That really felt like, now when we're kind of going over the autopsy against this Texans team, if they're going to turn the ball over and give it to you 3 times, a couple of those in plus territory and opportune situations, you got to come up with more than 3 points.
Yeah. The Steelers defense did not dominate the Texans. Frankly, I don't know if they dominated a whole lot of teams this year. They didn't really dominate a lot of games defensively. But I thought they played effectively enough for the team to win. You held the Texans to 7 points as you were entering the 4th quarter. That should be good enough for you to have a lead. But the Steelers, they just couldn't generate anything offensively. The two teams are built similarly in their desires, which are, like you said, don't get sacked. The two teams were tied for the fewest sacks allowed. I think they're tied for 8th. But they both gave up the same amount of sacks. The Texans were a little better at taking care of the football, but not much. Mm-hmm. Steelers were very good at that department. And then defensively, both teams are very good at sacks. Steelers had 1 more sack than the Texans. Very good at takeaways. I think the Texans were 1 ahead of the Steelers in that department. So really almost like carbon copy of what the sort of the primary aim is to do offensively and defensively. Value the football, try to take it away from the other team. This is how we do it. We don't allow sacks or we sack the other team. And when you're leading in those departments and not leading in the game, that directly tells you that, the offense is they just weren't able to get enough generated for the team to win the game. They just weren't.
So I want to talk about Houston's defense, though. The way the Steelers played offense and, frankly, being less talented than their opponent certainly had something to do with it. But, boy, if I had no horses in the race, I would have been flabbergasted just watching it from a neutral perspective how good Houston's defense played last night.
Yeah. When I was talking about the sack totals and the domination or not domination of the defense. And by the way, yes, I agree with what you're saying, Matt. It's also the second fewest points they gave up all year. So, they are very, very good, but it's not like this is the normal. It's not like
they were particularly outstanding. Yeah.
Right. It's not like the Steelers defense in the late 70s shut out 4 of their last 6 opponents. You weren't doing that. But your defense, when you took the field, there's a pretty good chance your defense is the best unit on the field, one of the differences though is that when they want to get to the get to the passer. They only have to rush 4. They're not a blitzing team. The Steelers had to do a lot of blitzing to get some of those sacks over the course of the season. Pressure that came from a lot of that because the Steelers' sack total had lagged the last couple of years, and so they blitzed more to try to get to him. Well, when you don't have to blitz, when you've got a Sheldon Rankins getting 5 sacks in the middle of your defense, when your second unit would be a starting unit for probably some percentage of teams in the NFL. So you can just keep bringing waves of guys. When you have elite edge rushers, you can then drop 7. And now what? You just have speed everywhere. Their secondary is just, 4/5 of their secondary. They're kind of figuring out who the second safety should be. Jalen Reed, they brought him back yesterday, and he got hurt early in the game. But it didn't matter because Bullock is outstanding, and the 3 corners are fantastic. I thought of all the players on Houston last night, and again, I watched them. I knew what to expect. But watching Petrie in person, man,
he's a killer.
That guy is just a player, man. He is all over the field. I thought he was just outstanding. So yes, they're fast and they're really physical. And people talk about fly to the football. Man, how many times did you see a ball carrier or receiver getting hit by 3, 4, 5 guys? I mean, they live fly to the ball. They are fast, and they are even a guy like Lassiter, who's 180 pounds, not a big guy. He is aggressive. They're fast and aggressive, and they were very impressive last night.
Unfortunately, I concur that they were, and hey, maybe we'll see that team in an AFC Championship game and perhaps a Super Bowl here in the coming weeks. But Rob King, voice of your Pittsburgh Steelers, kind enough to join us on a wild day here. One of the certainly the craziest Matt and I have had as part of the Steelers Audio Network.
Yeah,
Kinger, thank you for the time, and hey, great job, by the way, as you concluded your second year as the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is, hey, whoever replaces the 19 years of Mike Tomlin has a tall task ahead of them, right? To step
it's an historic day, guys. This is an historic day in Steelers franchise history. I mean, we've seen this happen now 3 times in 56 years. I mean, it's an historic day.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And where I was going with all that, Kinger,
sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Where I was going with all that is, whoever replaces Mike Tomlin is going to have to be the man to replace the man. Well, you had to replace a 30-year legend in your own right, and Bill Hillgrove on the Steelers Audio Network. In year 2 in the books, Kinger, you killed it. You did a great job. It was a blast listening to you and working with you on all the broadcasts. So thank you, and thank you for taking the time to join us here throughout the season, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. And I'm get this from Jim Rooney, who talked about this with the Steelers. And I think, look, the head coach of the Steelers is a lot more important than the play-by-play guy of the Steelers. I'm not going to try to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that.
But they have such a legacy and such a tradition. When you step into a job, you're merely a steward of the job. You're holding the place for the next person who's going to come behind you, because that's the way the Steelers are. That's the way their legacy is. And in my own small portion of it, I'm humbled to be part of it. I appreciate the kind words, but that's just the way the organization is, man. And so thank you. Anyway, I appreciate it, guys.
The New Zealand rugby team, the All Blacks, they're like the Yankees of rugby. They have a slogan: "You don't actually own the shirt. You just you what was the term you just used there?
Steward.
Steward. When you get the number 10 jersey, like you don't. That's not actually your jersey. You're just the steward of it for the history.
Exactly right.
Exactly
well
right.
Put.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Kinger, thanks for taking the time, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
There he goes. Wow.
Craziness.
Matt, we have a statement from Mike Tomlin that we need to get to as we kind of continue to discuss. We'll roll along here. All the craziness, all the news of the day, and the biggest piece of that being Mike Tomlin stepping down as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers after 19 years. More on The Drive when we return. Uhler, Williamson, it's the Steelers Audio Network.
It's disappointing, but I'm certainly thankful for this group and their efforts. But it's a disappointing night tonight.
And who would have thought that is the last we would hear from Mike Tomlin as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Although I guess I don't know. I assume
Who knows? Yeah.
I assume there's not going to be a press conference. I mean, because this isn't a Bill Cowher retirement, you know.
Right.
Like I know Cowher did one, but that's because he was retiring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. This is uncharted territory for us, Matt, as we're trying to figure all this out. Mike Tomlin stepping down as the head coach of the Pittsburgh
Tomlin was
Steelers.
not fired. He stepped down.
Yes.
But if coaches get fired, they don't go to the podium the next day. They
I
just
don't remember
pack their bags
hardly
and
ever
leave.
seeing that.
Yeah, I don't know what the protocol
And
is.
I know there's obviously a lot of stuff is collectively bargained where you have to do so many press conferences at certain points and times and all that. But when you're no longer this is where we could use Dale or Pursuta or you know, maybe we'll have to text Chris Adamski here and get the deets. But I can't imagine if, you know, all the stuff that he has to fulfill from a media obligation, that's probably out the window now because he's no longer the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right. He has no more obligations, and he's going to go hang with his family or do whatever he wants.
Maybe there will be a Mr. Rooney press conference or something like that in the coming days here. But for now, we do have a statement from Mike Tomlin
that's cool, yeah.
that we haven't read yet today, and obviously that deserves sharing here on this wild Tuesday in the Steel City and amongst Steeler Nation. If for some reason you've missed it, you've been living under a rock, and you're just joining us, Mike Tomlin stepping down after 19 years as the head coach of your Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's what he had to say in his statement, and I quote, "After much thought and reflection, I have decided to step down as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This organization has been a huge part of my life for many years, and it has been an absolute honor to lead this team. I am deeply grateful to Art Rooney II and the late Ambassador Rooney for their trust and support. I'm also thankful to the players who gave everything they had every day and the coaches and staff whose commitment to dedication made this journey so meaningful. I also want to thank Steelers Nation. Your passion, loyalty, and high expectations represent what makes this franchise truly special. Coaching in Pittsburgh is unlike anywhere else, and I will always take great pride in having been a steward of this team. While this chapter comes to a close, my respect and love for the Pittsburgh Steelers will never change. I am excited for what the future holds for this organization, and I will forever be grateful for my time coaching in Pittsburgh." End quote.
It's great. I mean, it's typical Tomlin class, understanding the environment, knowing his team, his employers, his fans, his city. It's a classy move. I would assume that there's no hard feelings, you know, like someday he's going to go in the Ring of Honor of course he is.
Without a doubt.
And everyone at Acusure is going to stand up and, you know, raise their clap to no end and applaud him. And if he comes to training camp one of these years, it's going to be like, how awesome is that? And, all those type of things. Right. Yeah.
Totally. And I'm sure I'm not naive enough to think that there's some people out there who don't agree with that, you know?
Of course, especially today.
But
I mean, we watched the game yesterday.
But I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm just telling you. A couple years from now,
I grew up in Pittsburgh in the Bill Cowher era.
Yeah,
it wasn't always rosy and positive and legendary for him. As
and
he
Chuck
is now.
Noll was rough.
And that was before my time. But I've
Real
heard
rough.
the stories from Wolf and you know, everybody.
Or even like Dale and those guys that covered him way back when. Like they were pretty bad teams.
And
the games passed you by, and you know the media wasn't the same then, but still.
I know this is a little different because he's a player, but shout out to TV. Same church, different pew.
Sure.
I remember the way Debo left here.
Oh,
when
yeah.
he was released and all that stuff about him and being bad in meetings and falling asleep, and then he goes and signs with the Patriots, the hated enemy, right? And everyone's like, way to stomp on your Steelers legacy. He does the hype videos in the stadium now, and everybody goes nuts.
Exactly.
He shows up a couple times a year, and he walks the streets of gold.
Yeah.
Okay, and you couldn't have had much of an uglier exit than Debo had from Pittsburgh.
Again, I'm showing my age, but Franco left in like 1981, and Chuck Noll goes, "Franco who?" And he's like the most beloved Steeler in the history of the planet. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of these examples.
A couple years from now,
rarely does it go smooth.
When there's alumni weekends, and there's Super Bowl 43 reunion weekends, and all these different things. He's going to go in the Hall of Honor. He's going to go into Canton one day.
Legend, yeah.
And yes, he is a Steeler legend. And
maybe he'll be coaching somewhere else in 3 years. Who knows? I mean, he's still a young man. He still has a lot of
and
stuff in front of him, whatever he chooses to do.
And that's been like all these different, the Schefters and the Rappaports and the local people too, have made sure to note that like the Steelers still retain Mike Tomlin's rights.
I think this is really important. I mean, this is a conversation we're going to have a lot, but it's very much like the Sean Payton situation. It's different if you fire a head coach. You terminate their contract. Well, you don't have their rights anymore. That's part of firing me, you, anybody, you know. But the Steelers still own his rights. If he would choose to, I'm just using the Sean Payton example, do a year of TV, and then the Saints traded Sean Payton to the Broncos for very nice compensation, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yes, and we'll get...
He is still a Steeler asset in some ways, you know?
Yes, yes.
And that's the cold, hard facts of it. I mean, that's not the emotion of it all.
Exactly right. And
Right.
we'll get, we'll get more and more into all of that. We'll talk candidates. We'll talk where you go from here.
My brain's spinning on it, you know?
Yeah, what type of candidate are you looking for? All these different things. Where could Mike Tomlin end up down the line? What's that mean for the Steelers? All this stuff that we'll get into
You know
in
how
the
good
coming
he'd be
days
on
and
the network,
weeks.
too? It'd be incredible.
I think so, but that's always a weird one for me.
I guess it's not an obvious transition. Right.
Because there's been a lot of ex-coaches and athletes that when they get hired to do TV, I go, I don't get it. And they're great.
And they're great. Yeah.
And there's been some where I'm like, that person's going to rule.
You know, it's not always the same skill set.
There's a 7-time Super Bowl winning quarterback who I don't think is the he might be the best quarterback ever, but
he's better at throwing the ball and winning games.
I don't think he's a very good broadcaster. Like I didn't think Sean Payton was particularly great on television.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
But man, Mike Tomlin, if he really wants to do that, certainly has the personality, certainly has the chops and the gravitas. And could be
experience, the intelligence, the connections.
Yes,
all, right.
Yes,
the stories.
Could be very, very good at that. If that's
what he wants to do,
something that he wants to do.
Maybe he doesn't even know.
Maybe he doesn't even know.
Yeah.
I think that I'm sure for him too, his head's spinning. You know, like it's been 19 years of the same job, and then now all of a sudden, in the span of
he just coached a crazy game last night,
less than 24 hours ago, and so it's really is. It's insane. It's a lot still open to find out and discover. There's now 3 head coaching vacancies in the division alone, Matt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wild.
Nuts.
Tomlin,
and I could make the argument the 3 best coaches are no longer with their team.
I would agree.
In the division, right.
I would still take the 3 coaches, any of the 3 that are gone from the one that still remains in the AFC North.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin was the longest tenured head coach.
Vacancies are there in the league?
9.
That might be the most ever.
I was. That is right. TV, right? I was just looking at that. Steelers, Ravens, Browns,
3 in the division.
Giants, Titans, Falcons, Cardinals, Raiders, and Dolphins.
Wow.
9.
Outside chance the Packers still
That's
happen.
almost 1 out of 3 jobs in the league are open right now. That's
seconds. You're right.
9 out of 32. That's
I'm
almost a third.
Totally speculating, but there has been rumors about the Packers.
Yes.
Could make it 10. I don't know if that'll happen or not.
Yes.
But
I think Bowles is safe.
I think that is
in
done
Tampa,
at this point.
with them making some coordinator changes, I think
I would think
he's
these
safe.
final 8 are safe unless somebody decides to retire. Like they win the Super Bowl and ride off in the distance.
Sure.
Eagles are safe, right?
Man, I don't know.
I mean, that's a weird one, but
That's a really weird
they won
one.
the Super Bowl last year.
They do crazy stuff. They fired Doug Peterson 2 years after he won. I know not a year after, but 2 years after he won the Super Bowl.
But I wonder how many coaches from last year will be coaching this year too. Like Harbaugh will. I mean, as a head guy,
Harbaugh and Tomlin both. If they want to be coaching, they will be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's owners calling Tomlin's agent.
And there is, again,
just to test the water.
They're not complete apples to apples because Harbaugh was fired. Mike Tomlin, the Steelers, still retain his rights. So you and I were laughing. How does he pronounce his last name? I always call him Steve Biscotti. But I
think it's Biscotti.
Biscotti, I think you're right. The owner of the Ravens. He was in the middle of a press conference whenever the news of Tomlin broke. And one of the reporters was like, hey, Mike Tomlin was just, I think said fired by the Steelers. I think the reporter got it wrong. It's all in the heat of the moment. I'm not trying to crush that person.
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines of like, wow, could you imagine? And they were like, would you be interested in bringing him in? And he was like, wow, could you imagine that? Mike Tomlin with the Ravens, kind of laughed.
Sure.
the Steelers would have to trade him to the Ravens. I don't see that happening.
I can't imagine playing against him twice.
I can't imagine trading him to a team in the division unless they godfather you and make you an offer you can't refuse.
All that kind of stuff. But boy, I mean, there's going to be so much speculation these next couple hours and days and weeks. And
exactly right. Exactly right. Turn and face the change, David Bowie, because, man, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it right now.
Last note, I brought up the Packers, which I don't understand because I think, this is all Steelers aside, but I think LaFleur is a tremendous head coach. But they've kind of hit this pattern, too, where get to the playoffs, don't really have the success that is expected or desired. But what's really interesting about the Packers thing is we know they don't have an owner. I mean, they're a different organization than everybody else. But there's a new team president, from what I understand. It used to be Mark Murphy, and now there's a new team president. And this team president's son, I'm almost certain, is Harbaugh's agent.
Okay.
So, as good of a coach as like LaFleur is, if you went from LaFleur to Harbaugh, people would be like, okay, that's kind of a lateral move. These are two of the best guys in the last 10 years or whatever. But there is a weird connection there from what I understand. And if you're Harbaugh and you have your pick of any job, Green Bay is really attractive.
Oh,
I mean, that's as good as it gets.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Another stable organization. Got a quarterback, got a lot of nice pieces. Yeah, it's just wow. Mike Tomlin was the longest tenured.
Crazy landscape right now.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like we're dragging our feet a little bit on the show today, but I hope everybody understands why. As we're trying to kind of piece this together on the fly.
Sure.
Mike Tomlin was the longest tenured head coach in the NFL, 19 years. Harbaugh was the second, 18 years, just a year behind him. You know who's now the longest tenured head coach in the NFL?
Reed.
Andy Reid.
Okay.
Big Red, once again, 13 years for him at the helm in Kansas City.
I think he said he's coming back, but I thought there'd be a chance maybe he'd hang it up at this point, too. He's been there, done it,
He's one of those ones, like if they were still standing and went to the Super Bowl and won it, maybe he retires type thing. But
maybe, right.
Again, it's a lot to wrap our head around in this moment. You want to know what's crazy, though? I said to you that number, 193 regular season wins for Mike Tomlin in franchise history.
Just past Chuck Noll, right?
Tied with Chuck
tied.
Noll.
Okay. I remember my last stat pack was if he wins this game, either ties or passes Chuck Noll.
And that's regular season. That's regular season.
Yeah.
But wow, walks away tied with Chuck Noll. That's pretty crazy.
The franchise leader. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Cowers behind both.
But he's like 163, I want to say. So not terribly far behind, but it is a significant-ish gap. Speaking of which, the Eagles just fired their offensive coordinator, so maybe that's the.
We knew that was coming.
Maybe that's the move.
Chargers fired their offensive coordinator too.
Yes, they did.
Yep.
So a lot of moving parts.
There's play tectonics in the NFL right now changing.
Play tectonics, I like that. Yeah. That's a good one.
There's big ones, big movements, especially in the division.
That's a good one. That's a real good one.
I'm trying to take a 80-foot view and not just focus on the Steelers as much because we'll do so much of that. But
we haven't even talked about all these other. We are almost at the end of the show and we haven't even mentioned the other wild card games that happened.
Oh, I know. It's going to be a busy week.
The 5 other games that happened Saturday and Sunday.
I'll be honest. When I woke up, as much as I love my job, but dread's the worst word. But I was like, man, it's going to be a rough week on the drive.
Yes. You and I have painted that picture.
Kind of dreading it a little bit, But
we are transparent. We'll show you how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
And it was not going to be the most fun week of shows. This doesn't, this at least throws a new wrinkle into it.
Oh, it's not like I'm doing jumping jacks about it, but boy, there's a lot to discuss, and
it opens up a Pandora's box of content for us here over
for sure.
Over the next few weeks, which is for our bit. As the late great Stan Savran would have said, always root for the story, right? And this is the biggest possible story.
Yeah.
Other than the Rooney family putting the Steelers up for sale, this is the biggest possible story you could have.
Possibly have, right?
Maybe in the entire NFL, but certainly here in Western Pennsylvania.
But just an amazing tenure he had here too.
Unbelievable. On the 100-day mark till Pittsburgh hosts the NFL draft too today. By the way, but we are both in that department. That was probably time for this to happen, but all the respect in the world for Mike Tomlin and what he's done here, and I hope
remarkable.
I hope even the people that have been very vocal about it being time for the Steelers to make a head coaching change before last night. I hope you're not doing jumping jacks and high-fiving and
I know, right. I think I would hope you're respectful and smart enough to understand what he accomplished.
You can say it was time, but respect. You know, like those things don't have to be mutually exclusive. They can exist. They can exist together.
And some of the greatest coaches of all time, it was probably time. Noel, Landry, Shula. I mean, in history, right?
Do you think you've seen the movie Shawshank Redemption?
Oh yeah.
The scene at the end where Andy Dufresne and what's Morgan Freeman's character's name?
Red
meet up on the beach in California and they see each other and they laugh.
It's Mexico somewhere.
That's right.
About the Negro.
That's right.
I always say it wrong.
They're close to California.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right, but they had to get out of the country. Obviously.
Yeah.
It's all coming back to me now. You think that's Harbaugh and Tomlin going to meet like that on the beach somewhere in the next couple weeks?
Dude, I've made this joke for
Harbaugh
10
will be
years.
standing there untying his boat, and here comes Coach T walking down, and they smile at each other.
Right, here comes Andy. You know, right? I made that joke for years that someday Kevin and Ozzie and Harbaugh and Tomlin are going to be on a boat with a camera with them, just kind of reminiscing without any filters, you know?
And that would be much listened. That would be much CTV or must listen to content.
It's a lot to digest.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We will continue to do so. Try and digest this and make sense of all of it as we put a bow on the day's wild pursuit. I mean, what do we do? Do we continue? Do we talk about these playoff games for 10 minutes to close this down on the other side? Do we save that for tomorrow?
I guess we do that.
I guess
touch on them all. Yeah.
I guess we do that. I don't.
Your call, man. You're carrying the puck.
I've been hosting radio for 16 years now, and I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
It's like I'm learning English. English is a second language for me here today. We'll wrap up the show with some other thoughts from Wild Card Weekend and some final thoughts on the news of the day and Mike Tomlin no longer being the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. All of that and more as we wrap this thing up on the other side. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Wrapping up one of the wildest days here in the
It really is
storied history of the Steelers Audio Network and, of course, The Drive here, the flagship program on the Steelers Audio Network. And wow, Mike Tomlin out after 19 years as the Steelers head coach. Matt.
And the Steelers are out of the playoffs.
And the Steelers are out. Season's over.
Yep.
Mike Tomlin tenure's over. And boy, do we have plenty to get to in the coming days and weeks.
A lot of new chapters to be writing soon here, you know?
New book, maybe.
New book,
I mean, there's new chapters, and then there's like let's close this one and start the next novel. And wow, as Mike Tomlin maybe bookends the trilogy of last three Steelers head coaches to win a championship and spend a long time on the sideline with the black and gold. You ready for this? I saw this on Twitter and it made me laugh.
Okay.
You and I were joking the other day, Stranger Things, popular TV show that just wrapped up.
Right.
It's going to feel like, here's a Stranger Things joke for you. It's going to feel like the Upside Down next year when neither Tomlin or Harbaugh are on the sideline when the Steelers and the Ravens meet.
How about that?
Crazy. Not just one, but both.
Right. I bet they play week 1. And week 18.
So I've joked with like our buddy Alec in the video department, Missy Matthews, Dan Quinlan. Like it feels like in the years that I've been traveling with the team, we always go to Baltimore in December. And it's like we stay right there in the Inner Harbor, and it's beautiful, beautiful, but it's cold and windy. Mm-hmm. And I say to them every year, I'm like, can we go to Baltimore in September one of these years?
Ever.
You know, like I'd really like to walk around the Sunday morning here in the Inner Harbor when it's 70-some degrees out and not 7 degrees out. Like, this is really cool. I'd really like to come here at some point when the weather's nice.
Sunday Night Football, week 1.
Oh, good
You're
Lord.
You're going to get that opportunity.
That sounds about right. It really does. But here's where I was going with other than to make a really bad Upside Down reference there, although I don't know. Maybe that one was okay. The Stranger Things finale is all the rage in the TV world now.
I'm sure. I haven't started a new season
One
yet,
of the first TV shows that was all the rage was The Sopranos. That's one of the OG television programs. Matt, Mike Tomlin was the Steelers head coach since before the finale of The Sopranos aired.
Wow. All the HBO series in
how
between.
How long does that seem since the
right.
finale of The Sopranos? When that happened, Mike Tomlin was the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach.
Yeah, oh man. That's crazy.
I mean, that's just absolutely wild.
I was going to kick out. There's always like and this guy was president back then.
Yes.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yes, it would have been George W. Bush.
Right, and they'd be like, since the Taft era, this hasn't happened, or, right.
Like, I don't think Michael Phelps had done his, 8 gold medals in one Olympics yet when, like, by the time when Mike Tomlin was not the Steelers head, like, that had happened after Tomlin got hired.
The iPhone 2 was just released, or,
Yes,
right?
yes. Matt, we'll spend more time on these games tomorrow.
Yeah, I know we're up against it.
How about this? I mean, other than that Sunday night game in New England and obviously last night, man, a really great slate overall of wild card games. Almost all of them coming down to the final plays, the final moments, one possession tight games.
They have to be really happy with how things went.
With really good endings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And some of the losers, I mean, Jacksonville's the one that comes to mind in particular. Like, I thought they were a pretty legit contender and just
no doubt
didn't happen to win their first
Eagles,
game. Eagles, right. Yeah. Eagles have some offensive problems. As noted there.
That they do.
The offensive coordinator changed today, right?
Yes, making an offensive coordinator change today.
Are there the two other moves, Chargers and Eagles OCs?
Yes.
I think of the two.
Yes.
I mean, they're massively overshadowed.
Roman for the Chargers.
Yeah, Greg Roman.
Yes. And as we mentioned, the Eagles moving on from there.
Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised with either, although Greg Roman's very, very close with the Harbaugh family. I mean, he came from the Ravens, and the Harbaugh connections are deep.
Yes.
I think that needed to happen.
I concur with you. Kevin O'Connell, Vikings head coach, had his season-ending press conference, and he said he has a lot of confidence that Brian Flores will return as the defensive coordinator. We'll see. He's going to get interviews. He's going to be one of those names.
He's a true free agent.
He's a true free. Yes.
Yeah. Like his contract is up.
Exactly right.
And it wouldn't shock me one bit if he gets an interview here.
No.
Right.
In fact, I would almost expect him to.
Yeah,
He's been part of the organization in the past. And then last kind of bit of notable news of the day as we wrap up, the Carolina Panthers, not surprising, but still notable, announced that they will pick up the 5th-year option on Bryce Young.
That's so far down the list of things we have to talk about.
So far down the list of things today.
We do have to go through the 5th-year option list.
Yes,
yeah, I mean,
we absolutely do.
Which I'm not shocked by Young at this point. But that was up in the air a couple months ago.
It's funny. I told you, I think, about a month ago, I put together like an off-season tab in my notes to just start jotting down random things that we can discuss during the off-season. And that's one of the things that's one of the things I put in there a week or two ago was go through all the 5th-year extension options for every.
I forget when the deadline is, but it's coming up.
It is, yes. Yeah. So, Matt, needless to say, we won't be sparse of content here the rest of the week and moving forward on the drive.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
Wow. Congrats to Coach Tomlin for just a remarkable run. Too.
Remarkable run. Yeah. All the whatever he decides to do, TV, coaching, nothing.
I'm sure he'll be good at it.
I'm sure he will be good at it, and we wish him all the best. And yeah, not like Matt and I had some great personal relationship with him, but obviously with all the time we spend around the organization and training camp and those things, we've had conversations with him, bumped into him, those type of things before.
Been around him. Yeah.
And we think very highly of the man, and we wish him all the best going forward. Matt, good stuff today. Today was not the best day of radio with all the craziness that happened right before we going on air and everything. But I promise the rest of the way we will be on our P's and Q's and have plenty to talk about.
Sometimes real world hits you.
Yes, it does. And speaking of which, I wanted to make sure to say this to you today as this kind of wraps up the end of the season as it will be. We're not going anywhere on the Steelers. On the Steelers audio network. We're still every day for the foreseeable future. But man, this season flew by. It was a wild one. Yeah. It was a fast one for a lot of reasons, but just wanted to tell you thanks. I really enjoyed these last few months.
Yeah, it's been fun
getting to do this, and it's been a whirlwind, man.
Sounds like we have a lot of new listeners and popularity's up, and it's been a blast.
It has, and I would be remiss. Listen, I'm a little bit of, this about me. I'm a little bit of an emotional guy, especially since I became a father a few years ago. Like I make the joke now, like. I get emotional more in 1 week now than I used to in an entire decade of my life, since my daughters were born. But like for whatever reason, I woke up this morning, I was thinking about Dale, I was thinking about Wolf,
Yeah.
It's only been a few months that Dale's been gone. It hasn't even been a year since Wolf passed.
Yeah.
And just how, how the time seems like it's moving so fast, but in that, kind of, scope, like it's only been a few months without Dale. It hasn't even been a year without Wolf. But I think they'd be happy that we're keeping this thing going, and I've been happy to do it with you, man.
It's funny because not that it's uncommon, but I probably got 10 to 12 tweets just today or since the
Conclusion of the game
concluded about, man, this made me miss Dale more, or
Yeah.
I would love to hear your guys' breakdown, or even since the Tomlin news, boy, I wonder what Dale would have thought about this. You know, it was pretty cool.
You know, like last night in the booth, you know, Rob was saying that, like, this is one of those days that, like, you walk in here and you would have just loved to have had Wolf sitting here waiting for you.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like playoff game about to start and how jacked up he would have been and all that stuff. And yeah, so these kind of moments when you're kind of putting and not just to do with all the Mike Tomlin stuff today,
Right, but it's the end of the season. They just
Season
got
ending
eliminated from the
always kind of
playoffs.
feels like, you
Memorable
know, kind of
game
a
for
benchmark
all good
moment.
reasons, but right.
And yeah, I was just kind of thinking about the crazy few months we've had here, and Dale and Wolf and going along with that, and hopefully those guys are proud of the work we're doing and keeping the
How
torch lit
different
for
training
them.
camp will be next year, and you know all that kind of stuff. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Big time. Wasn't the best radio today, but I think we made it
Oh, it was
through.
pretty darn strong. I think you're selling it short.
Well, I mean, our C tier here is, you know, still we're like the valedictorian who, you know, maybe we got a B- on this test, but we're still better off than most out there. But wow, do we have plenty to talk about the rest of the week, and we will continue to do so. Thanks to Nathan for producing on the radio side, TV on the video side, keeping us handsome on YouTube. For Matt Williamson, I'm Wes Uhler. Take care, everybody, and we will talk to you tomorrow. As always, you know where to find us. It's on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. It's Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.